I'm Michelle.
And I'm Katherine.
And we're here at the Healthy Hurried Human podcast,
where we talk about keeping pace in a world that never slows down.
You know it's good when you get the producer laughing in the background. So thanks for that. Yes, today, this is kind of on me. We're doing a little digital short, and we're going to talk about volunteer impact, because I think that with everything that's happening today, we're asking ourselves in politics and in the world and in our own neighborhoods and in our schools, there is a question of how can I make a change and a positive change and make a difference? And I think we're struggling with feeling a little bit blue, a little bit bleak, a little bit concerned for the future moving forward. And
I think it's important to note that at the time of recording this, the date is September 12th, 2025, because people could be watching this at any time and being like, what's going on? I think it's important to note we're just in a bit of a time in the world and in, I think, history that can make us very self-focused. And when you brought this up the other day that, hey, I think you're the one that said it, let's talk about volunteer impact, because we've been talking about the healthy hurried human and how do we know that we are a healthy person in a human hurried environment. We all are. We're all in a hurried environment. How do we know that we're healthy? And we have the 8 key functioning indicators.
We have this debate about, and I'm the one that keeps changing it to functioning versus functional.
Anyways, so we have these key areas, and one of our spokes on the wheel, and we're going to, we want you to see that. We're going to give you a way to see that, but it's important, it's vital to be
healthy,
centered, focused on other people, volunteer impact.
Other-centered and volunteer impact.
As someone who has been working with people for, I'm going to stick with 25 years. It makes me feel a little bit younger, but more than that, as someone who's been working with people in helping them with their mental, emotional well-being, a key thing a tool that you reach for when you're kind of wrapped in a cycle of depression or anxiety or sadness or grief. I am not saying this tool fixes it, but it is a tool to move you forward. Mm-hmm. And this is one of them. I recently have had to do this. I was sharing it with you that I had to speak it out because I was kind of wrapped in my own cycle of sadness. And I reached out to you. I reached out to another friend. I said, I'm letting you know, I've been in this cycle, but I know what to do. And here's my tools that I'm going to use. I'm going to go for a walk. I'm going to get some sunshine. And then I've got somebody that needs something. That's and right. I'm going to go fulfill that for them. And I'm telling you, it
makes a difference.
It literally turned my cycle off. And that's the key, is turn the cycle off.
The negative cycle off, right? So I recently was asked to participate in a volunteer in a way that would engage me in teaching and teaching kids. And I was hesitant about doing it at first because when the opportunity came to me, I didn't have any feeling about it. I didn't feel like that frizzle inside or that connectedness the clouds part, you hear the singing in the background. There was no Hosier
Do
moment.
We get to hear that much in middle age anymore?
there was no background music that you see on all the social media that tell you this is a significant moment. And I was sitting and processing and working on actually doing finances and things like that. And I just kind of paused and just started talking and praying about it and thought, why is this, everything about this opportunity makes sense for me, because I've been out of volunteering with kids for a couple years now. And I should be leaping at the opportunity to this. And it just all of a sudden clicked was the fact that 2 days before, I was in my morning meditation time and thought, what is my greater purpose? Mm-hmm. And I realized that I was searching for some purpose, and this fell into my lap, literally fell into my lap. And that's all I needed to know, that this was the path I needed to move forward in. And I was nervous and I was a little bit hesitant because I'd never worked with this organization before and I didn't know how it was going to play out. And you were a great cheerleader for me to move forward with that. And all of my friends were very supportive of this. But this is why volunteer impact is so important, and it's one of the ones that we can tie to purpose-driven all of the time.
Yes.
And giving back and building hope. We are not living in a solo vacuum, which I think is one of the problems we have right now with the mental health in our country, is so many things are solo player. So much of our world can be done alone, in the dark, away from other people, and not in a community. Like, we have AI now that helps us write our papers or our dialogues or our catchy speeches or our poetry.
Right.
And we're not going to each other to say, will you proofread this? Will you help me with this? And that saves us time. And it's subjective or objective or whichever one we want it to be. But we are continually finding ways to
isolate
and be less and less around people. And volunteering, showing up. We've had a lot this summer. I feel like the past 3 or 4 months, we have seen some very catastrophic events that seem to be one after another. And I am an experiential type of person. I need to show up to feel connected. I want to help. I want to make a difference. And sometimes all I can do is to send financial support, which is no joke. Or when the Asheville floods happened last year, my neighbor and I are cat lovers. We pulled out all sorts of cat food that we had, kitty litter, new boxes and things, and went to Costco and bought a ton of money and took it to one of our neighbors who had a son in Asheville. And we just showed up with pet supplies. And that is a way that it's something close to our heart. It's how we can show up. But it's not enough to just give money to the problem or give a part to the problem. There is something very significant
in action
and walking in the shoes of helping people walk through grief, helping people walk through or exciting times. Like, I'm working with kids who are excited to be there, and it's fun and it's engaging, and they're little tiny touches that you can see people and recognize and affirm their humanity and show that you care. It also makes you appreciate yourself, or opens your eyes to the greater world out there.
Yeah, it's when we take action. There's a couple things here. When we take action to benefit ourselves, yesterday I took action to get myself out of this cycle. But then the kind of the reaction to that is knowing that someone else has benefited from the action I took, which the physiological is it sends all the right chemicals to your brain and to your emotions and that kind of stuff. But the second part is when things happen, we feel helpless. When somebody's lost somebody dear to them, or they've faced some sort of that thing in us that's like, I want to help. I want to do something. What is it I can do? When we are giving a substantial or a substantive, I don't know if I'm struggling with the word here, a real way, when the Asheville hurricane that happened around this time last year, it was a call to go buy the waters, go buy the big things from the box stores, bring them to this location and help us load and fill these trucks, because you can't all go to Asheville.
That's right.
But one truck, when we fill a truck up, that truck can go and get there. And it's something tangible, feeling like, okay, I'm helping, I'm doing something. That is really a big thing. I love, there's some really good people who are in the grief space that I'd done grief counseling for years as part of my practice. But until I was in deep grief over losing my dad, I always say that experience is the true teacher of compassion. That shows us when you've experienced something, you understand, oh, this is how, I can walk in this and showed this deeper kind of compassion. I discovered some people in the grief space who gave very practical tips, and they put them, on their social media, or they've written little books, or you can download the list. And I love them so much because grief is something not everybody has experienced at the same level. So what I mean by that is you can go along. I feel like I was one of those people very blessed to get to middle age before I experienced real close grief. I had experienced grief, but I had not lost anyone from my family of origin. Many people experience that at an early age. So I had gone pretty far in my life before I experienced that. And to see tangible ways to minister to somebody who is, or to care for somebody in grief. Like my favorite story is a woman who had lost her dad. And, everybody says, what can I do? How can I help you? And the person in grief is so fatigued by their emotions that they can't, oh, thank you, but I don't know. I'm not sure, and she said that her friend texted her and said, are you home? And she's like, yeah, but I'm not really interested in having it. And she's like, it's okay. I'm not coming, but I just needed to make sure you were home. And 10 minutes later, a bag of groceries showed up with fat and sugar and carbohydrate, all the comfort things. And she said it was the most amazing thing, because I wouldn't have told anybody I needed Oreos and ice cream and chips. But guess what? When you're in grief, the body is looking for any of those physical comforts. And those were the things that I'm like, oh my gosh, that's I want to go sit on the couch or on the front porch with my Oreos and ice cream and my chips. And when I heard that story, I was like, that is really true.
Well, and this is a good resource for us to share about certain topics, is when you want to show up and you don't know how, do your research.
This episode of the Healthy Hurried Human podcast is sponsored by Midlife Thrives. Midlife Thrives is for women in their 30s, 40s, and 50s navigating perimenopause and menopause. If you've felt the energy dips, the mood swings, or the brain fog that make you wonder if you're losing yourself, you're not alone. Midlife Thrives is here to help give you clarity, resources, and a supportive circle of women who get it. No quick fixes, no shame, just some real guidance for real life. Learn more and connect at midlifethrives.com, because thriving in midlife isn't optional, it's your new standard.
Because the person that needs it doesn't need to be the one that
tells you how to
do it.
That's right.
You and I have talked about this with the loss of your father, and you're not only is it your father, but you're also the mother of children who it's their grandfather. I mean, that whole how long it takes you to have to help walk people through it. And on a silly side of it, in the great classic Sense and Sensibility movie with Emma Thompson, where there's this whole like blow up that happens, and Eleanor is the one that was hurt, but like Marianne's crying, Mom's crying, the other sister's crying, and she's the one that's like having to take care of all of them. And it's such a classic sign of that. Oftentimes we have roles in relationships, and our roles determine whether we're the ones that get the attention, whether or not we need it. So there's an aspect of do your homework, find out without asking the person that you're helping how to help, or the organization how to help. See if you can find out on your own. Also, don't flood people with things that aren't necessary. But to go to a positive side of finding ways to volunteer that can bring happiness or joy, there are I'm challenging myself because I just cleaned out my secretary, a wooden piece of furniture that's literally called a secretary that people used to sit to write their letters at. I cleaned it out, and from my previous experience, I have oodles of stationery, and I'm trying to write more letters. And let that be something that shows up to sit down, reflect on people. I have one of my best friends, Keely, is a phenomenal letter writer. For anything that you do for her, a gift, a note, an act of service.
Hey, listen, you're not too bad yourself.
Keely writes letters and is just wonderful about it. She's just totally gifted. And there is an impact that has by even just writing a letter. It's a discipline.
It is, yeah.
It is a discipline to write. And it doesn't have to be long. I sent a graduation gift out, and I got a 2-sentence thank you note back, and it might be my favorite. I mean, not really. It's not my favorite, but it might be because it was
letter writing and card sending. I think is also generational. Like, I tried. I really tried with I was like, this is going to be something I teach my children because I was taught you write thank you notes, you write letters, you send cards, and we really, really tried. We still try, and it is not going as easy as I think it went for my mother trying to teach me, and then.
Well, people don't write as much.
They don't write as much.
It has become very niche and vintage, and people love it.
Yeah.
But it is, even sending a holiday card or a random holiday card, it's a discipline.
I love the holiday cards.
It is a discipline, and you have to sit still and do it. But there's something also about that makes you appreciate the person. So I had one day, it was 4 hours. I was sending out graduation gifts and wedding presents, and I wrote notes for each one of them. And listen, there was something beautiful that happened in me when I was reflecting on what I was writing.
And your appreciation for that person.
My appreciation for that person, for the graduates, my hopes and dreams for them, my challenge to them going off to college, for the people getting married, the history that I had with the groom, and writing to his bride, and because she's the newer one to there. I was known him since he was a kid. And then also my cousin was getting married, and I should have been a butler.
But all of this is pointing to we're shifting the brain and the emotions to focus on other people or onto others, and how important that is. I don't want our listeners to think that we are telling them all to start stationery. And writing,
but there is something
to that,
because when you sit and pause, it's different. A text message, I'm convinced that I don't have the scientific studies to back this up at my fingertips, but there are different parts of our brain when we are physically handwriting something that engages it
100%,
and it
journaling.
pulls a different way. And when I was saying that I should have been a butler, it's because I like to restore old things like linens, and I had just done a whole restoration project with linens that were my grandmother's, my great grandmother's, and I pressed them and ironed them and packed them up and sent them to my cousin's new bride to be, and thankfully she was ecstatic about them, so yay. But there was this also a passing down of welcome to the family, here's some heirlooms.
I love
and
that. I didn't know you did that.
Oh, I didn't tell you that?
That's really cool.
I sent her a whole bunch of different items, but there was something that I felt so connected to this person. And honestly, I felt like in a small way, I hope this is how they received it, is this is how I'm showing them love. And I'm reflecting and, saying goodbye to some of these kids that are going off into the world and wishing them the best of luck. And that is, when we talk about volunteer impact, there's sacrifice. Sometimes it's financial. Almost always it's your time.
It's time. Yeah.
But it pulls us out of ourself, and for the benefit of others and the community. And the question that I would say to you is, on your worst day, there's someone else that could use you, but also let people help you, because there are times that you need to be the one that receives the flowers, that receives the grief care, and say yes to that, and let people help you. And I think the more that you're giving and to others, I think you'll be open to receiving.
Yes. And
you also build hope and trust with the world, because you begin to see the good of others. You begin to see people and don't compare yourself to the person that's got so much energy and they're the ones that have done more in the volunteering organization you're working with. Just show up and find the one that suits you best. Look at go back and listen to the episode where we talked about being purpose driven, and how we talked how Michelle was talking about the ways that you can triangulate to figure out what your purpose is, and find a volunteer organization, or whether it's through
Or a community.
or in your own community,
Or a friend that shares that same thing. Like there's ways to do it.
and add that to your life. It will rebuild your trust. It will give you hope for the future. It will change other people's lives. And it will help you feel like there is hope, because
we wanted to get to this place of saying there is a quantifiable benefit. It is quantifiable. You will feel it. You will see it in being focused on others, being centered, giving others the center, taking yourself out of it.
it's a way of self-care in the most random backwards way to do it.
It doesn't intuitively, it's not intuitive, but it is that's a great way to say it. It's a very good, strong way to care for yourself.
Volunteer impact hits so many of the other parts of this wheel for emotional, relational, purpose-driven, self-care, self-growth, self-development. And there is more than one story out there. Of course, I like to highlight, shout out to Mike Rowe. He's got a YouTube shorts that he's doing called People You Should Know. And you go watch these videos and you find out that a lot of times it comes out of the job that they're doing or a passion project they had as a child. There are people out there doing it, and small little steps, you can change the trajectory of someone's life.
Amen.
And it will make you believe that there is that, this too shall pass, and change comes, and there is hope and beauty and love waiting out there for us. And we can have we can believe in that in the midst of a lot of hard times and remembrances and anniversaries. And anyway, volunteer impact.
Well, I heard a quote this morning that said, darkness, and you'll know who said it, darkness doesn't drive out darkness, only light can do that. And when we are focused on others, when we are thinking, what do I have to give to serve others? That is light driving out whatever the darkness is. Martin Luther King, by the way. Thank you for joining us for this shorter episode of the Healthy Hurried Human.
Not so short, because Michelle and I have a lot of things to say.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The Healthy Hurried Human podcast is brought to you by Foxygen Consulting and a handful of silent sponsors who believe in this work and quietly keep us going. We see you, we thank you, and we are glad that you're part of this journey.